How's it going, everyone? My name is Zeppelin and welcome back to the channel. I hope you are doing well, and I hope if you are a fan of the channel and a fan of what I'll be doing on YouTube and Twitch that you are currently enjoying everything that I am doing over on Twitch. So today we're going to talk about something on this channel that I've actually discussed before. It was one of the first videos that I made on this channel, and that was the original Razer Raiju controller. Excuse how beat up this one looks. I have had to take it apart multiple times in order to fix certain things with it, which we will get into a little later in the video. So the reason why I want to remake this video is because while I do like the review I did the first time around on it, I do feel like I was still a little new into YouTube. I don't think my confidence, so to speak, came through as much as it should have in the video, and I don't think I got everything across that I want to get across. So I thought it would be a good idea, now that I'm a little more comfortable in what I do in YouTube and have gone on to review other controllers, that I would go back and review my most used and arguably favorite controller that I have with the more experienced way of reviewing. So if you don't know already, let me give you the quick backstory on how I got this controller. So back in around 2015, 2016, a young 16-year-old Zeppelin had first started getting really into Call of Duty. Now, once I started getting really into it and I started playing ranked play on it, and I met some people on there who I played ranked play with, for a couple of them who are still dear friends of mine to this day, I realized that I was falling a bit behind in certain areas in terms of equipment, and I wanted to finally invest in getting some equipment. The first two things I got was a good monitor, which I actually still use in my setup to this day, and a pro controller. Now, at the time, I did not have the money, and still wouldn't have the money even, nor would justify spending a massive amount on a controller, anywhere over €200. I find that's an insane amount for a controller. And it was around this time, as I was searching for controllers and the only options were really scuff, that both Nakon and Razer were announced to be doing officially licensed PlayStation 4 Pro controllers, the Razer Raiju and the Nakon Revolution. When both of these were coming out, I did not know which one to go for. However, I knew more of the Razer brand and I knew of their headsets, and I liked their headsets. So I decided to give their controller a go. So I believe the controller was somewhere between 100 to 150 at the time it came out. By no means was it cheap, but it still undercut the prices of Scuffs and all, while adding a majority of the features that Scuff would have, such as trigger locks, the back buttons, tactile feeling buttons. It came with a lot for a more reasonable price, and it swayed me to get that controller. I did eventually pick up the Nakon controller to try, and I was severely disappointed with it, and I am super glad that I stuck with the Razer controller. And while the first Razer controller that I got gave me a couple of issues, once I did the RMA process and got that returned and sent back to me, I never really had any problems with the controller over its lifespan. Now, over the past 4 or 5 years of really consistent use, more so than even my PS5 controller now, there has been issues with stick drift, and stick drift has been a common occurrence. However, I have opened the controller and different solutions and stuff have been sprayed on it. Nothing I'd overly recommend for the longevity of the controller, but kind of just to squeeze as much juice out of the controller before I eventually move on to the next era of pro controllers, if that will ever come in today's market. It's sort of hard to know what that market is doing in terms of pro controllers. But going back to the Razer Raiju, when I originally picked this controller up, I was very happy with it. I really like the back buttons on it. I know I may be really biased in that. I know a lot of people did not like them, and they were subsequently changed out for the Tournament Edition and Ultimate Edition of the Razer Raiju. But to this day, I would probably say that the original Raiju's back buttons are my favorite back buttons that I've tried on any controller ever, bar maybe the PlayStation 4 back button attachment, but I don't know if I technically call that a pro controller. So I'm going to go ahead and say that these back buttons here were my favorite. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could they be my favorite? I mean, look at them. They're not paddles, they're not buttons, they're these weird clicky things, and I don't know what it is, but they just fit into my hand perfectly. The most comfortable shape that I've been able to get from any controller, without a shadow of a doubt. The Razer Raiju Ultimate's pads were a bit too flat. I like the fact that these protrude a little bit more from the controller, giving you that feeling of having the grip without having to grip in as tightly to the controller. Overall, all of these things combined have made it my most favorite controller I've ever used. Now, the Raiju Ultimate may have taken that mantle if the version of it that I got in 2018 was working. However, as I've mentioned plenty of times before in this channel, the 2018 version of the Raiju Ultimate was practically unusable with its problems, and I gave up on it and went back to my original controller. Now, the 2019 version has come out since, and I cannot wait to try that. That will probably be my next purchase in terms of controllers, because I would like to see what it's like, and it has gone down relatively in price. But overall, I have to say the Raiju so far is my favorite, which is why I wanted to have another video talking about it, and why I want to bring up this next part. So this next part that I want to talk about is the controller nowadays. This controller was pretty good when it came out in 2016, and I could have a lot to say about it back when it came out then. However, the climate for pro controllers has changed a lot in those last couple of years, and the question that you may have if you are thinking of getting this controller is that you're seeing all these reviews that came out 3-4 years ago, maybe praising or slating the controller, but you're wondering, how is this controller in 2021 in terms of everything else that has been released since, and what is going on with next generation consoles and the potential next generation of pro controllers, as Battle Beaver are showing with their PS5 pro controllers. Is there any point in shelling out either £100 to get this controller new on sites like Amazon or eBay, or shelling out about £70 or £60 to get it used in places such as CEX if you are based in any country where CEX is available? Now, one thing I will say about this controller that I never noticed with the standard Sony controller is that as much as I liked it, it just degraded over time, and the clicks in the back buttons felt worse after time. The grip on the controller was peeling anyway. I know, as you've seen on the back of this, it was completely peeled off, but that was in order to do surgery, if you will, on the controller to try and fix up some things that I was having with it. But the grip was well worn already. The rotation of these, now the rotation of the joysticks has always been a little finicky on these. Even in this one I can still feel it now, but over time it really got worse in terms of being clicky, being squeaky, and leading to things such as stick drift. And one thing that I actually noticed with the controller within the last year or so, which was really surprising to me, is at the back, the two back buttons have actually begun to rust and peel away, which is quite strange. But then again, I don't know if pro controllers are necessarily built to ever last more than 3 years, and I've had this controller since 2016 and it hasn't been used regularly since 2016. But the fact that I still use it to this day when I'm playing any games on PC shows that it's aged. It's an aged controller, but I have always gone back to this one. So in terms of whether or not this controller is usable in 2021, as much as I subjectively like it, I would objectively say that even if you pick it up used, you're going to have a problem with longevity. Even if it's a used one that has been traded in and sat in a store for a year or so, and then you're picking it up and has very little use time, I would worry about how much use you're going to get out of it. And I need to reiterate again, even though I really like the controller, I could have been very lucky in terms of the one that I got and how well it worked. There could be plenty of other ones with stick drift and all sorts of other issues that I was lucky not to get on my controller the second time round, and that might be the reason why they released editions such as the Ultimate Edition and Tournament Edition. You may find yourself having to return this product more than once if you are getting faulty versions of it. So that could be a big pain if you decide you want to go for this controller. My honest recommendation would be is that even though I love using this controller, I myself will be moving on to the Raiju Ultimate relatively soon, and if that controller works, then it is a good controller and a decent upgrade, and I would recommend to you to just skip straight on to the Raiju Ultimate, provided you can get a working one. The most likely way you'll be able to tell it's a working one is if you are using the 2019 or 2018 version, which websites should specify on. Also, remember when you get any of these controllers that Razer and the support site have released drivers to improve them as much as they can. Now, all updates and supports have been sort of cut from the Raiju, as the canon 2 Razer controllers now are the Ultimate and Tournament Edition, but there should still be drivers on there, and you should make sure to update the controller if you're having any issues, as it could potentially fix some of those issues. whether it's with the new controller or the old controller, updating your drivers is extremely important. And if you want the best out of your equipment, I really do recommend you go do that. But if updating those drivers does not fix your issues, then make sure to return to your retailer or straight to the manufacturer if you're buying new, send in an RMA request and get all of this sorted, because you will eventually get a working controller that's good. You just may have some hassle with it. As anyone who knows the pro gaming controller market will tell you, a lot of controllers end up being faulty, but you have the rights to return these controllers, get your money back, or get a replacement. You will have warranties there for you, so make sure to utilize them. So anyway, that is the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully there'll be more content going up on here soon, such as more gaming videos, maybe even reaction videos, and more reviews of different products. Do you agree with me on what I said about the Razer Raiju? Is it worth picking up on 2021? If you think so or think otherwise, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Why not? I will be uploading more regularly, and you'll want to see what I'm uploading, I hope. So do check it out. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.